Welcome to the FEMA Primer for Homeowners video. My name is Kathy Swersel, and I'm a licensed architect in Florida and Virginia. We will be talking about the 50% rule and more. This video is based solely on my own experiences in designing additions, remodels, and new homes in flood zones in Tampa Bay. It should only be used for preliminary planning since it does not include all the requirements and may be slightly out of date. FEMA's goal is to prevent flood damage to homes and communities and provide incentives to lower flood insurance premiums. FEMA establishes an agreement with each municipality or county where the National Flood Insurance Program is offered. FEMA can audit the permit drawings and inspection notes to make sure the agreements are being upheld by local authorities. You can learn more by visiting the FEMA website at FEMA.gov. FEMA map flood zones versus evacuation zones. These are easily confused, but it's pretty simple when you look at it this ways. Evacuation zones focus on the safety of people and getting people out of harm's way, while the flood zones focus on building safety, so making sure the buildings are still there after the flood or wind event. When people talk about flood zones, they are typically referring to A zones and V zones. The V zones are the ones that are out on the beaches and they get all the wave action. And the A zones are mostly inland flooding. The FEMA maps were recently updated using LiDAR technology. This is when an airplane flies over land and light pulses are beamed down to the surface and bounce back up to a satellite. And the resulting information is turned into a 3D map, which is a lot more detailed than we had in the past. You can find your flood zone by going to the Map Service Center on the FEMA website. Just type in your property address and click Search. Very carefully find your flood zone on the map. You may need to zoom in a lot, or you may need to zoom out so that you can find the name of the flood zone. If you can't figure out which flood zone your property is in, don't worry about it too much. Your surveyor will make the official determination anyways. The surveyor will fill out the flood elevation certificate with information gathered from his or her on-site surveying of your property. It may include the heights of the living areas, air conditioning pads, pool equipment, the garage or carport floor, and they will list all of these things in the form for you to review. Please be aware that when we talk about the height of your living area, we are not talking about the height above the ground, and we are not talking about the height above sea level either. When we talk about flood zone AE11, or that your lowest living floor is at 5.2 feet, this is all a comparison to what's called the North American vertical datum, and it is the set point in the United States. Now that we have covered some of the background, let's talk more about the FEMA 50% rule. This is only used for projects where you have an existing house that you may want to add on to, remodel, or you must repair because of storm damage. So the FEMA 50% rule only applies to properties that are in flood zones A or V, not in flood zone X. The FEMA 50% rule sets a maximum construction cost before you must upgrade the house to current flood rules, and we will talk about how to figure this out later in the video. When we are talking about construction costs for FEMA projects, it typically means hiring a contractor and using standard material prices and labor prices. So you don't get discounts because you did the work yourself. However, there are exceptions to what is included, and the architect, surveyor, and permit fees are not included in the FEMA 50%, and neither are pools, screen pool enclosures, or landscape features such as sheds and fences. Be aware that there may be time limits as part of the FEMA 50% rule. Sometimes this means that you have to divide a project up into smaller pieces, and sometimes it may mean that you cannot do the project that you want to do. Here's how to estimate just how much money you could spend on your construction project before you hit the FEMA 50% rule. This example is for Pinellas County, and I have a couple of other examples. Go to the property appraiser's website for your county and look for the just market value of the property. You then look for the land value, and you subtract the land value from the just market value of the property. This will give you essentially what is the building value, and 50% of the building value is the maximum construction cost that you should prepare for. On most waterfront properties, the land value is very high on these county property appraiser websites. So in this case, you have the option of hiring a licensed private appraiser who can give you the FEMA cost replacement analysis, which you would then multiply by 50%, period. This is not the same as a bank appraisal. Thank you for watching the FEMA Primer for Homeowners about the FEMA 50% rule and more. Check the notes below the video for additional resources.